he's got something heavy with him, a couple of heavy things.
Yeah, you are correct. You know, outside of Beacon Hill Studio, Peter Cadges of the Boston Phoenix, Cosmo Macero of O'Neill Associates. Yesterday, the Center for the Colts hugged Bob Kraft in a sign of solidarity. Should we hug Cosmo?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's a bad idea.
That's much appreciated. Also a bad idea. The president taking to prime time last night to make his case for the debt ceiling and the debt discussions. How did he do, Peter, I guess, first and foremost?
A complicated question. I mean, what he said was fine. I don't think it rose to the level of a presidential address. Frankly, from a political point of view, I found the Speaker of the House, John Boehner's comments shed more insight into the... Boehner really was misrepresenting the state of affairs.
That's a shocking thing to hear from Cadges, isn't it?
You know,
aside from having an awfully bright green necktie on.
Building the case of the American people on this is important.
Isn't it late for that, though?
No, the president early on in his remarks warned about not getting into the weeds, so to speak, and then he really got into the weeds. And I think the American people see this and say, gee, how come leadership, the president as well as Congress, can't work this out without getting into the details like this with the American people? It's got to be disconcerting and unsettling to most people.
Well, I think one of the reasons is that Boehner is the front man. He's acting as if he's in charge of the Republicans. Boehner isn't in charge of his own camp. I mean, I think the Tea Party Republicans...
Well, is Obama in charge of his camp? Harry Reid went against him 2 days ago.
I think...
Are those glasses rose-colored, Peter? Because you seem to be seeing through them.
No, relatively speaking, Obama, I think, has more leverage with the Democrats than Boehner has with the Republicans. Relatively speaking.
Bob Kraft said yesterday, we got this done. The NFL thing was much more complicated than the debt thing. Get it done, Washington. Is he right?
I don't know if it's more complicated, but he's right that if they can get that done, this ought to get done. Everyone is hanging on in Washington to the notion of they can have some grand compromise that makes everyone happy for a long time. You know what? It's like 6 days away. They're going to have to kick this down the road to keep us from default.
Personally, I would have been much happier, and I'm surprised that I'm about to say this, that if Obama came on and said, look, we've wasted 6 months. Give me a clean bill extending the debt ceiling,
I agree with
and
that.
I'll veto anything other than that.
And here's where I am compromising, 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. But he didn't do that. And I don't know what he was doing. I don't know what he expected out of that speech.
Look, I've lost track of all the different plans. You know, at least one of them has the offer of a vote on a balanced budget amendment.
By the way, footnote, we are the only democracy other than Denmark that has a debt ceiling.
A vote on a balanced budget amendment. That ought to be good enough. Let's have the debate. Let's get it out there. Not good enough. Peter's right about that wing of the Republican Party really controlling the agenda.
Got to move on because we've got about 3 minutes left. Let's head to Somerville, taking the lead of Mayor Menino. Joe Curtatone, the mayor of Somerville, now saying, hold on, Walmart. I'm not sure you live up to Somerville standards. I'm not sure I want you in Somerville until we sit down and talk. Is this more mayoral strong-arming, Cosmo, or does he have a real beef here?
Look, I go to Walmart. I think it's a good store. It's part of the community process when the city has authority over a certain permitting for any kind of project, retail or otherwise, to exert some influence, to exert some leverage. That's an element of the American way, VB, and that's what the mayor's doing. It's not only his right, it's kind of his responsibility. If the city doesn't exert some influence now, well, they'll never have any leverage once this thing is done.
I like them exerting influence when unemployment's at like 4%, Peter. When it's at 10%, I kind of want jobs. Where do you come down here?
Well, it's somewhere between the both of you. I'm no fan of Walmart's. However, Somerville, this makes no sense. It also makes no sense to me in Roxbury. I wonder what unemployed Roxbury residents would say to Mayor Menino for standing in the way of Walmart coming.
There'll be a Walmart in Somerville. I'm not buying this one for a second. Speaking of the mayor, Cosmo, quickly, the bike sharing program, which has been a huge thing for you, kicks off this week. They're finally unveiling.
I rode my bike in today with my new and improved.
You're all excited. Go ahead.
My new and improved backpack. I think cycling is great. I'm in favor of cycling. I've been doing more of it myself. I think fundamentally, though, the business model of a bike sharing program, It doesn't really add up. An auto sharing program, look, a motor vehicle has all kinds of costs and hassles associated with it, and it can be unaffordable for a lot of people. Bicycles, it's the democratization of transportation, and I think anyone can have a bike, and I just think this is doomed to fail and become something the government has to subsidize.
You neither drive nor bike, Peter, so I'm going to gloss over you on this one because we got to get to Amy Winehouse.
I take the T.
There you go. Quickly, Amy Winehouse passed away over the weekend, obviously. Today's Boston Herald says, quote, she was one of the best vocalists of our lifetime, end quote. A, you buying that, Cosmo? B, give me a better vocalist.
I was not a huge fan of hers. I'm not really buying it. Not as much of a, or not enough of a track record of work. I love Veruca Salt, but they also didn't have a long track record.
No
Louise
kidding.
Post, Nina Gordon. Right off the top, I got to say,
why are you dropping names of people no one ever heard of before? They're less of a one-hit wonder than Amy Winehouse was.
Chrissie Hynde from The Pretenders. I'd
That's
put
better.
right up here.
That's
right
better.
up there.
Peter?
Chrissie Hynde.
I would say Annie Lennox in rock, Ella Fitzgerald, say, in jazz, Mary Martin, a real old name. But I think you may be missing the point here. I suspect that the person who wrote that in the Herald is in their 20s, and she's had an incredible impact, and I think her story...
She's not had an incredible impact. She had one song. I'm not ripping her, but...
No, I think for people in their 20s to see an immensely promising talent like that die at an early age, it has a big effect on
How about
them.
Joni Mitchell?
How about Joan Jett, boys? You both dropped the ball on that one. Peter Cadges of the Phoenix, Cosmo Macero of Vanino Associates. They're the hitters. We'll take a time out. Much more to do on a Fox 25 Morning News when we come back. Stick around.